In a shocking turn of events, the Labour government faces what could be its biggest political crisis yet. Keir Starmer's leadership, just months into power, is on the brink of collapse as Chancellor Rachel Reeves prepares to deliver the most contentious budget of her career. With a £16 billion black hole looming over the economy, Reeves is scrambling to find solutions, but her options are limited, and every potential decision threatens to ignite further public outrage. The next 24 hours will define not only Reeves's legacy, but also the future of Starmer's premiership and the fate of the Labour Party as a whole. As Reeves prepares for her second pre-budget forecast from the Office for Budget Responsibility, OBR, she is under immense pressure. The autumn budget, scheduled for October 30th, will set the course for the country's economic policy, and expectations are sky-high. However, what should have been a routine financial update has spiraled into a full-blown political emergency. The decisions Reeves makes in the coming days could either save or completely destroy the Labour Party's already fragile grip on power. Reeves has been caught between a rock and a hard place. On the one hand, she's facing a dire need to fill the £16 billion gap left by the previous government's fiscal mismanagement. On the other, she's under fire from all sides, with critics warning that her proposed tax reforms could alienate Labour's core supporters, particularly public sector workers like teachers, nurses and doctors. The backlash against potential changes to pension tax relief, inheritance tax and capital gains tax has already begun, and Labour's internal divisions are starting to show. One of the most controversial proposals on Reeves's table is the reform of pension tax relief. The Chancellor had initially considered cutting the 40% tax relief on higher earners' pension contributions, a move that would have generated significant revenue for the government. However, after officials warned that this could disproportionately affect public sector workers, Reeves was forced to reconsider. Teachers earning over £50,000 a year, for example, could have faced an additional tax bill of up to £1,000 annually, and this would have sparked outrage among Labour's traditional voter base. The Labour government, already on shaky ground, can't afford to anger these critical groups. Public sector workers were among the key demographics that helped Labour secure its election victory, and losing their support could spell disaster for Starmer's administration. Reeves now faces the unenviable task of finding alternative revenue streams without further alienating her party's supporters. However, every option she explores seems fraught with risk. Capital gains tax is another area where Reeves is looking to raise revenue. Currently, capital gains are taxed at a lower rate than income, and the Chancellor is considering aligning the two to generate more funds for public services. But even this seemingly straightforward move comes with its own set of problems. Many fear that raising capital gains tax could discourage investment and hurt middle-income families who rely on long-term savings and property sales to secure their financial futures. Reeves is also looking at closing loopholes in inheritance tax, which could potentially raise up to £4 billion for the Treasury. While this might sound like a sensible solution, it's another politically dangerous move. Inheritance tax is deeply unpopular with voters, and any attempt to increase its burden could trigger a backlash not only from the wealthy, but also from middle-class families who see the tax as an unfair penalty on their hard-earned savings. With so many politically sensitive issues in play, the Chancellor's room for manoeuvre is shrinking by the day. Reeves has already scrapped the idea of reintroducing a cap on lifetime pension savings, another move that would have disproportionately impacted public sector workers. But without these revenue-raising measures, Labour will struggle to address the fiscal shortfall, and Reeves will be forced to make even tougher decisions as the budget deadline approaches. The political stakes couldn't be higher. Starmer's government is teetering on the edge, and any misstep by Reeves could push it over. The Prime Minister's leadership has been marred by scandals and mismanagement, and public confidence in Labour is at an all-time low. The recent resignation of Sue Gray, Starmer's Chief of Staff and the woman behind the infamous Partygate investigation, has only added to the sense of chaos within the party. Gray's departure has raised serious questions about the competence of Starmer's leadership team. Officially, Gray claimed she didn't want to become a distraction for the government, but insiders suggest her resignation was a result of growing tensions within Labour's top ranks. Her exit leaves a significant vacuum in Downing Street, and with Starmer's approval ratings plummeting, the timing couldn't be worse. Starmer's government has faced a barrage of criticism from all sides since taking office. Political commentators have described his premiership as a complete disaster, with one analyst noting that Labour has become one of the most unpopular governments in the shortest amount of time. There was no honeymoon period for Starmer, and Labour's policies have been slammed as poorly thought out and overly focused on appeasing the party's hard-left factions, leaving many of their moderate supporters feeling alienated and betrayed. Reeves's struggles with the budget are just the latest symptom of a government that is increasingly out of touch with the electorate. Labour's initial promise to be a government for the people has been undermined by a series of blunders and scandals that have left voters disillusioned. From mishandling public services to backtracking on key campaign promises, Starmer's team is rapidly losing the support of the very people who put them in power. The public outcry over Labour's handling of the economy is growing louder by the day. Recent polling data reveals that 68% of British adults believe immigration has been too high in the past decade, a significant increase from previous years. This sentiment cuts across party lines, with even a majority of Labour voters agreeing that the government's immigration policies have failed to address the issue. This is a major headache for Starmer, who promised during his campaign to take a firmer stance on immigration, but has so far delivered little in the way of meaningful reforms. In addition to the economic and immigration crises, Labour is also facing mounting pressure over its handling of public services. The health service, already struggling under the weight of the COVID-19 pandemic, is now buckling under the strain of chronic underfunding and mismanagement. Teachers are threatening strikes over pay and working conditions, and public confidence in the government's ability to manage key services is eroding fast. As Reeves finalises her budget proposals, she is acutely aware that failure to deliver could spell the end of Labour's time in power. The opposition parties are circling, ready to pounce on any misstep, and even Labour's own MPs are starting to lose faith in Starmer's leadership. There is a growing sense that this government may not last much longer, and unless Reeves can pull off a miracle with her budget, the Labour Party could face an electoral wipeout in the near future. With just weeks to go until the autumn budget, the clock is ticking for Starmer and Reeves. The decisions they make in the coming days will determine not only the future of Labour, but also the direction of the country. If Reeves fails to plug the £16 billion gap in public finances without alienating voters, Starmer's government will likely collapse under the weight of its own incompetence. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the next 24 hours will be crucial in determining whether Labour can survive this crisis, or whether they will be remembered as one of the shortest-lived and most unpopular governments in British history. As the political drama unfolds, one thing is clear: Keir Starmer's government is hanging by a thread, and Rachel Reeves holds its fate in her hands. The Chancellor's ability to navigate this financial minefield will determine whether Labour can turn things around, or whether they are headed for an ignominious downfall. Only time will tell if they can survive the storm, but right now the outlook is bleak.